Yes, the launch of ChatGPT in November 2022 caused a surge of interest in artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is one of a number of new generative AI tools, and these tools have caused particular interest and concern in the creative sector because they can create, or at least they appear to be able to create, new content. So where better to start than with ChatGPT? I said to ChatGPT, I am hosting a session about artificial intelligence at a conference of Christian publishers and writers. Please write a one-paragraph introduction for my session. And this is what we got back. Welcome to this session on artificial intelligence, AI, and its transformative potential for Christian publishing. As AI continues to reshape industries and redefine creativity, it also offers unique opportunities and challenges for faith-based content creation, curation, and distribution. Together, we'll explore how AI can enhance our ability to share the gospel, deepen engagement with readers, and uphold ethical and theological considerations in the digital age. Whether you're new to AI or already experimenting with its tools, this session will equip you with insights to harness AI in ways that align with Christian values and missions. Now, who would have thought that ChatGPT thinks AI is only a good thing for Christian publishing? I think our panellists might be able to give us a more nuanced view on where the opportunities and risks of AI are for those of us in the Christian creative world, and I'm very pleased to be able to introduce them. Terumi Echols, at the far end, is president and publisher of the US-based Christian publisher InterVarsity Press. IVP have already been mentioned on this stage as one of the most innovative publishers working today. Terumi has also previously spent 20 years at Christianity Today, including as Chief Publishing Officer and Publisher. Cris Garrido, nearest me, is Vice President and Publisher of HarperCollins Christian Publishing, based in Nashville, where he oversees the Spanish language imprints. Cris previously launched the Spanish language publishing program at Firebrand Christian Resources as well, and will be speaking shortly about audiobooks in an elective session. And last but not least, Joshua Tallent, in the middle, is Director of Sales and Education at Firebrand Technologies in the USA. As anyone who attended his webinar on metadata on Monday will have seen, Joshua is at the cutting edge of technology generally, and in particular, how publishers can use technology to connect with readers. So please give a round of applause for our fantastic panel. Thank you. So we have plenty of authors in this room, who I'm sure we love, but I have heard that occasionally authors can miss deadlines, or maybe even need a little bit of talent management. So this question is aimed more at the publishers on this panel. Do you expect to be publishing AI-generated books anytime soon?
Absolutely not, no.
Do you want to talk us through your reasoning a little more, Tony?
Well, I think as much as that paragraph showed really great, I think insight into some of the work that we do, I don't believe that it can provide the theological standing that we need, and that it can go awry very quickly. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to figure out how do we keep not only ourselves accountable, but also our authors accountable in the process. Because we want their thoughts, not the thoughts of multiple people that generative AI has put together in order to come up with a paragraph such as that.
Chris?
Likewise, I think the most important piece in the machine that is publishing is the author. And that'll never be replaced. The unique perspectives, the unique approach to a topic, which are theological understanding of an area, that will always have to be wrestled with by human mind. I think AI provides tools to do that more effectively, maybe even do that more fast, and be able to reach the deadline more easily, but never replace it.
So if AI isn't going to replace authors, how do we feel about AI in helping authors?
I'll let you.
So I'll say this: AI will never replace the author where we work, but it already has in many ways and in many places. If you go on Amazon and look for books, you're going to find many AI-generated books. There's people who have basically farms just pumping out books and using good metadata, good description to sell those books that may or may not be good. And I think that's going to happen. In the same way that I think self-publishing flooded the world with not great books, AI is only going to accelerate that. But I think that in the measure that you use AI as a tool, you use it correctly, it can be a great thing. It can be a great thing. I've said to some team members who maybe consider that AI is going to replace my job. AI will never replace your job, but someone who uses AI better than you do will. So just try to master it, try to know those tools, and try to use them to the best.
Can I ask a question? Do you use AI?
All the time.
Okay. Do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think, and for authors, you guys you can hold me accountable for this. I think you can use AI to help you with being stalemated on the thought process. Can help you with the possibility of some additional thoughts and ideas that may be helpful. My daughter's a writer, so but I don't think that it's something that you should take, that an author should take and use as their content. That it needs to come from you, it needs to be your heart, it needs to be your thought process, it has to be your theology, the things that there's something unique that authors bring to content that is the reason why we want to publish you. So I don't want us to lose the idea that that's something that's really important. And so yes, and most people are going to use it, play with it, try to see what it can generate. But I always say, what you can provide originally is going to be the best thing that will come to the table, I think.
So are you adding specific clauses to your contracts around how authors might and might not use AI?
We are looking at that now. We're in the process of that. And our authors are doing the same for us. They want to hold us accountable as well as to what we will and will not do. So we're trying to find the happy medium right there.
We have, not only with authors, but even with translators. A lot of what we do in my world is translation. And there's great guidelines of what you can't do with AI.
Joshua, I'm guessing from your question, you might use AI a fair bit yourself. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to make sure we're talking about the same thing as well, because there's not just one type of AI, right? There are different types of AI tools. There are different opportunities to use AI in inappropriate ways, and also obviously in inappropriate ways. If we think of AI as just generative AI, just ChatGPT or Claude, then that's not really all that AI provides, or the possibilities that AI provides. So there are great tools for authors like Grammarly that can help you do a better job of writing the thing that you've already written and putting it into words and phrases and get the grammar correct, right? Those kinds of tools use AI, but they're not generative. So we have to be careful about making sure we understand what we're saying, what we're talking about, and being able to set the boundaries around what we expect of authors while not restricting them from taking advantage of the really beneficial tools that are out there.
And like I say, we've been also, all of us at some point have used AI of some sort. When we say Grammarly, we use it to index, we create, all different, table of contents, all those kinds of things, outlines. But we don't see that as AI because we've been doing it for so long that it's something that's come natural to our work. So we don't think of that as AI. I think generative AI is where people have gotten the most concerned because it seems as if it can learn and create things anew, but it's really not creating things anew. It's really just grabbing a bunch of different pieces together and putting things together in a way that seems new. So at least that's the way I see it. So that it appears new. So.
Cris, I was interested you touched on to translation. Are your sort of concerns about that around quality or around the ethics of it?
The former. I think a good translator has to be, first and foremost, a good writer. Secondly, have a mastery of both the source language and the target language. And has to really get at the nuance of language, the nuance of theology, not only what this says, but what it means and what the author is referencing. And maybe there's a cultural reference that in the source language, pretty much anybody gets, right? But not necessarily if you translate it. I think of one of my first books, the author made a lot of references to The Walking Dead, so that tells you more or less when that was. And that show was so popular that everybody knew what he was talking about, even though he never said he was talking about The Walking Dead. And the translator had no idea what he was talking about, so they just translated it. And it was terrible. It was a great book that was terribly translated. And then we made the mistake of trying to fix it, and trying to fix it, and trying to fix it. And if you find that book today, it still sucks, right? Which, I'm probably going to get ahead of myself here, but a lot of people think, well, you can start with an AI translation and then just have a good translator do a comparative review, fix it, tweak it. The reality is, in what you get today from AI translation, that's probably still not going to get you the best result. Conversely, you might get to a word or phrase that you're like, I'm not sure what to do with this one. Let me see what AI does. And, oh, okay, great. Or, no, that doesn't work. But that's because you have a human who is a master of his craft using the tool. Is that?
Yeah. Anyone got anything to add on that? And in terms of when we license our books to publishers in other languages, are you guys starting to put clauses in there around whether foreign language publishers can use AI translators, or are you very much leaving it to them to come up with the best approach to translation?
Now that you've asked the question, I think we will.
I know, so I think to myself, I don't think we've done that yet. I think we probably need to think about that.
Yeah, we have put that clause in our contract as SPCK just within the last month or two.
Honestly, we may have to. We'll be sure we have.
So for those interested in going deeper into this topic, there's going to be a session tomorrow morning on AI and translation. So looking at some of the practicalities and some of the positives and some of the risks around that. So do attend that session if you're interested in getting into that in more depth. Another area where AI tools are starting to appear is in terms of audio, where there's some increasingly convincing tools which can take your text into an audiobook in various different voices. Cris, you're about to lead a session on audiobooks. What's your perspective in terms of AI-read audiobooks?
There are business reasons why not to do it. There are quality reasons why not to do it. I'll get into those in more detail later. But for starters, if you generate an audiobook with AI, Audible will not place it. Audible is more than 60% of the market. So if your audiobook isn't on Audible, probably...
They've changed that policy.
Yeah.
They have.
Okay, there you go. So that's...
That is not Josh.
just saying that Audible has changed the policy.
Okay.
So, yeah, they do allow AI narration now because they were kind of forced into it when Google and everybody else started doing it.
Okay, that's good to know. I think that's could be good news in some ways. The other is the quality is just not there yet. I mean, it's glitchy. You're gonna get things wrong. So one of the things we do when we do an audiobook is we take the manuscript. A lot of you will know this already. You look at the manuscript and you adapt it for audio. If the book says in the chart below, well, you'll change that in the attached PDF, in chart 1.1, right? So there's some things that you need to adapt in the manuscript. So give you an example of how I did that recently. I was going to be in the studio with an author recording his audiobook, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to get ready for that. So I basically fed the manuscript into an audio generating platform, uploaded the author's voice, and got the book back in a matter of minutes in the author's voice already done, right? With all the glitches and all the stuff, right? But very close to what I'm gonna get in the studio. Then just listened to that, made notes, made annotations of what needs to be changed, and the next day I was ready for it, right? So it's a great tool, but the technology's just not there.
Terumi, I think you've done some exploration in this area as well.
Yes, we did some, we took an old book, about 20 years old, and one of the things that we thought about as we thought about using AI was the idea of, could we bring life and additional royalties and right to the authors of the book, because right now it's basically might sell 20 to 30 copies a year. Can we bring additional life back for some, what I would say, classic truths? And so we did pick a book, and we decided we wanted to go out and say, okay, let's go ahead, generate an AI generated audiobook and see what it's like. And he's correct. It can be glitchy. There are things that you have to go through. It has to go through an audit process as a part of it. But there's also additional things that you have to think about, and that's including intellectual property rights and those things that go along with it. So we have experimented, but we have not done anything with it yet. We're still in the process of experimenting to see if we can create something that has quality. And we also don't want to eliminate voice actors as a part of it, or people. But these are also books that we would never, none of us would ever spend the money to actually try to get it done. An audiobook can cost an extent, like a great deal when you think about having an actor or someone actually have to read it on the author's time and having to do it maybe multiple days, many hours. So the cost is fairly significant. So the place where we're actually looking at it is, what are books that we might not do that with, that actually might bring additional life and actually have a purpose in the marketplace. But again, we're still just experimenting and looking at it to see what the possibilities are.
Can I just a couple of thoughts? I might be seen as the outlier here, hopefully not. But I think the question we have to ask ourselves with narration is slightly connected to what Terumi was just saying. There are 1 million titles published traditionally every year. There are 3 million titles published non-traditionally, self-published titles every year. That's 4 million new books every single year. And with hockey stick growth for audiobooks, people want audio content. But there's a limitation on how many audiobooks they can get, because there's not always, the cost is always very expensive. The time that it takes, the investment that it takes to generate an audiobook using a voice actor with all the processes and even all of the time that goes into just the editing of that, the audio editing of that. It's difficult, and you have to figure out, is the author going to read this book? Can they read this book? Should they read this book? And all the other questions go around that. I think there's an opportunity here for, as Terumi was saying, for publishers to look at this as a way of expanding the reach of titles that would never have audio treatment normally, and also to expand the reach of titles that are in the backlist that, again, might be beneficial to everyone else to hear or have audio versions of. We have to think about this as, what are people looking for? What are people looking for? People are looking for content. right? And audio content is really popular. And it may be that this is the only way to provide the audio content that people are looking for.
I agree with that.
And in terms of Amazon's change of policy, are we, as I understand it, they're making a mark very clearly whether an whether an audiobook is being read by AI or whether it hasn't. Is it too early to say whether the public are buying these AI-generated audiobooks?
Well, the key with all of these is to be very transparent. You have to be transparent about what people are getting. And if you're transparent up front, I think people are willing to say, that's fine. You know, as long as it doesn't sound weird, as long as I get a product that's generally good, then that's going to be okay. They may want to pay less for it. So there's that aspect that I have to consider as well. As far as Audible, they quietly changed their policy. They didn't make a big deal about it. And again, I think they were forced into it because of Google and everybody else accepting AI generation. But the policy is still there that you have to be transparent, it has to be in the metadata. I think the real key is, again, in any of these, is pick the right titles. Don't just randomly throw everything into audio narration. It's not every book is good for audio anyway, but not every book is good for AI narration either.
And you already have people who are asking Siri or Alexa, read this book to me, right? So they're already consuming a version of an AI-generated audiobook, and the AI-generated audiobook that publishers will put out will be a better version of that. So I just think people are going to opt in. They may prefer something else, right? Just like you may choose to buy an audiobook or not, depending on who read it, right? So obviously the AI is just going to be one of those options.
We kind of talk about the accessibility aspect of this as well, because this is something we talk about with ebooks all the time, that you need to make your ebooks accessible. 20% of the reading market can't read a print book directly because they have some sort of vision impairment or some other dyslexia or something else that keeps them from being able to easily read the content that you produce in print. Having an ebook is helpful, but that's not the only thing you need to do to make sure that those books are able to be read by people in those situations. So audiobooks is the same thing. There are many people in the world that can't read correctly, like they can't read the text. They can understand the language, but they can't read the text. Or they have some other impairment that keeps them from being able to engage with the content in a reading manner. So having audio content is so important. If we're talking about mission, we're talking about how we as Christian publishers are engaging with the world around us and reaching more for Christ. We have an obligation for mission to make products available in ways that people will be able to engage.
And then there's the whole geography, right? For those of us in global publishing, I may put out a book today that will not be in Bolivia for 6 months, right? But the digital version is going to be available today. And whether that's a way to leverage marketing that's happening at launch, or whether that's just creating access for impact, there's a value in creating those digital options, both ebook and audio.
And I'll add to that there are many voice actors now that are actually licensing their voices. They've actually audio recorded them. There is a book publisher who I was at an event who talked about they had a library of books from a particular author. He had passed away, but they loved his voice. They got the rights from the family to duplicate his voice so that they could use his voice for his audiobooks. So there are other opportunities that are out there that exist, and by licensing their voice, you're not eliminating the actor, you're actually giving them opportunities in some ways to gain more revenue from the work that they're doing. So.
And there's a skill set to reading an audiobook, right? To do it and to moderate your voice, etc. An advantage of AI is that maybe that reader didn't have the skill set to read an audiobook, but with the use of his voice and the use of AI, now he can.
Coming back to the idea of transparency and Amazon, we touched earlier on the sort of proliferation of AI-generated books that are starting to appear. Joshua, from what you're seeing, are they actually selling to people?
No.
Good. Well, that's encouraging.
No, I mean, obviously somebody's going to buy something, but they don't often find something that's beneficial. If it's not transparent, now Amazon has controls in place. They're trying to manage this. They're requiring that anybody that signs up for their platform now provide identification. You can't just sign up with an anonymous account. So you have to be an actual person with your actual name, your legal name. There's other protections they have in place about if you put a book up that's AI and we figure it out and you weren't transparent, you didn't put AI as the originator of that content, then they can take it down, and they will. Obviously, the problem we run into though is that just too much. I'm a technology guy. It's supposed to like me. I'm gonna break yours too. There's just too much content. There are thousands of books put up into KDP every single day. If you're talking 4 million books that are self-published every year, all 4 million of those go up in the course of the year on Amazon. So there's just too much content for Amazon systems to catch everything. So there's always going to be bad issues, bad actors, there's always going to be problems. But like any other system, Amazon is working, I think, as hard as they can to try to limit that.
There's some areas like Bible study or Bible commentaries where tools like ChatGPT can create something that, on the face of it, is quite credible. I wonder if the publishers are concerned about the potential for certain subject areas to be bombarded with AI-created books, some of which may even have been based on our content, which has been illegally taken into AI in the first place.
Why is everybody looking at me? Everybody's looking at me.
I stole his microphone. You have it.
We found situations where people have used some of our content, and the best that we can do is we will approach them from a legal standpoint to try to get them to take it down. I think one of the challenges you face is that there are going to always be bad actors, as you call them. And we have to be mindful and watchful, and we get people that tell us, this seems like it's yours, and so that we have to actually reach out, but it becomes a significant legal issue and a lot of costs associated with it. So yes, we have concerns. We have not figured out how to minimize it because the content is out there. Once you publish a book, it's freely, in a lot of ways, once you publish it, it's out there into the world, and it's hard to contain it. You can contain it when it's within your own spectrum, but once you get it out in the world, it's a baby. It's out there. It's there for everybody to see.
And there are concerns, and some of what's being done is how do you prevent it, how do you take it back when it happens, but then there's also explorations into how you monetize it. One of the issues that the publishing industry has wrestled with is all these bots were trained using our books, right? You can't undo that beast, right? But can you somehow get the author to benefit from that? And maybe there's a path to that.
To your question, I'm curious. One of the things that we haven't gotten into is that generative AI is not just about generating content based on these previously copyrighted works or other mass information on the internet. We know if we play around with ChatGPT, you know that it doesn't give a good theological answer to almost any question. It's not accurate at all. But you can build internally within your publishing house, you could build your own source material for a GPT that can then generate valuable content for your users, your readers. Glue AI is a Christian company that's helping publishers embrace AI on things like their website, where you can have search on your website and it's using the content of your books to generate search results to help people find content on your website more effectively. But there's other ways to consider this as well. If you have access to a vast library of a single author, taking that author's content and putting that into its own GPT, where it is able to generate content and answers to questions and generate new books or new content based on the actual writings of that person, that's a different use of AI that may in the future become even more beneficial to publishers. Because we have to think of ourselves not as publishers, but as content creators and content aggregators and content, people handling content in a way that other people don't. The reason why books were copyrighted books were brought into these AI platforms is because they're so good. You know, there's a value to them. And so we have to think of that value. We have to consider how do we take advantage within our publishing houses, within the copyrighted material we have, how do we take advantage of that in a way that's beneficial to the community?
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the challenges, I say, you know, creating those walled gardens of content that we can actually utilize internally. But even with that, I think some of the challenges is, you know, when people, at this stage, there's so much concern over generative AI and what can, you know, how might it learn and what it might create, that it's, in some ways, we're being shackled in a way that we cannot do some of the things that we might actually be able to do from a creative standpoint, because we still have to figure out, you know, what does it mean for both for the author, but also for our houses, and what does that look like?
And one of the ways, going back to generative AI, that we could use it very fruitfully is, for example, when we finish a book, that goes to marketing, and marketing, depending on the marketer, may or may not read the whole thing, and they have to generate a product description and key selling points and all of that. Well, you can upload that manuscript to some platforms and get a summary, get a description, and the better the prompt, the better result you're going to get, right? You can say, write a description for Amazon that uses these keywords and blah, 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 and you're going to get a good result, right? Problem with that is if you do that with the open platform, you're training bot and you're letting the IP out, right? So there's ways to do that in a closed environment, usually paying, so that you're getting the results without necessarily uploading your content into the beast.
It's a hefty price.
Yes.
It's a hefty price, but you do have, both for the author and for the house itself, if you're going to have something like that, you really do have to have it closed. It has to be closed off, walled off, so that it's only learning from it's learning from within your content, and it's not sending that information out to other places, so absolutely.
Joshua, your talk on metadata on Monday was sort of touching into some of these areas, and in a world where I think you said 4 million new Kindle products each year, so how can we use these AI-based tools to help our books stand out in that marketplace?
Yeah, I think AI has potential use, but we have to, again, there's value in the human effort. Publishers that use ChatGPT to generate keywords, what they're doing is the same thing that they're doing when they read through the reviews on Amazon, or when they go look at other books and see what people are saying. It's just trying to find a source of words that I might not think of myself. I think that's the way we should always think of this. It's not going to generate the perfect keywords for you or the perfect book description for you, but it might give you a good starting place. It might give you some ideas you didn't think of. And the more content, I think the point is well made, the more you give it, and the better the prompt is, the better the question is to the generative system, then the better the response is going to be back. So you have to figure out these things. It's been said that you have to spend 10 hours using AI before you can consider yourself any kind of expert on it. And that I'd say is a minimum, a bare minimum. You have to get in there and engage with it and see what's going on and figure out what's actually working and what's not. I think AI is great when it is used properly, but I think that we can overwhelm, you can go crazy, and I don't think we should be going crazy.
Nice, and I'm just going to add, if it's free, it's open. That means anything you put in it is available to anyone. So.
The price you're paying for free is your content.
Exactly. So just remember that, especially our authors. If it's free and you're putting it in there, whether it's for ideas or whatever you might be doing, you actually put it out into the world, and now they're going to learn from whatever it is, and other things can be created from it. So just to keep that in mind.
How many of you in the room pay for access to an AI platform for private access? Okay, yeah. So you're the people that everybody else should be looking to and asking, hey, how does that work for you? Because it's different for everybody. And the value proposition for you might be a little different than for somebody else, but that we can learn from each other on how the usefulness of that in our specific day-to-day work, what is that usefulness and how can we take advantage of it?
Are there other ways beyond sort of metadata and keywords that we can see AI starting to help us connect books with readers?
there are different ways in which we are using AI to mine the internet for what are people searching, right? And what specific phrases and words they're using, and actually automatically updating some of the keywords in our metadata based on what people are searching, what's trending, and all that.
You know,
Can I ask about on the acquisition level, if you guys are utilizing AI in any way to deal with the slush pile, to deal with submissions that are being put in?
We are not at this point. Any the things that we do are all our editors that are going through those.
I'm not. I do know some publishers, including some within my organization, that filter through 2,000 submissions and basically get a smaller selection of what they need to look at with their own eyes. Because there's a lot of easily discardable submissions that we all get, so it's helpful. I haven't, but yes.
I think some of our editors use it to sort of, as part of the creative process, suggest some possible angles on this topic, suggest an author who we might approach about this book, suggest a subtitle that fits with this content. So I think it's used, I think it's there in the acquisitions creative process, but I think it's being used by the humans rather than driving the humans.
Yeah, there's been some controversy. I don't know if you guys saw the Angry Robot, publisher called Angry Robot that wanted to planned to start using an AI tool just to, let's just filter. Let's just figure out, who do we send this to? Which editor is going to be the best person to look at this book? Not even to judge the book, but just to say where to source it. And within 5 hours of making the announcement, they counteracted that and said, sorry, the feedback from all of our community was really bad. So, but I think that's the kind of use of AI that might be beneficial to publishers, right? If you're dealing with a lot of submissions, you're dealing with a lot of content coming in, you have to figure out a way to make that more efficient. Taking advantage of tools like this can help you.
And in terms of how AI is being used internally within your companies, to what extent is you sort of encouraging your staff to do whatever they want? To what extent are you putting some guide rails around it? To what extent are you being pretty strict in terms of how people might use AI tools for their personal productivity?
Our organization is extremely strict on what can be used. And pretty much anything that hasn't been previously vetted and approved can't be used at all for anything work related. It can't be on the work equipment.
Yeah, same. We have a very strict AI policy with approved tools and even levels of approval. So certain tools you can use for XYZ and other tools are not. As a software company, we have AI tools that our developers use to check their code and to write comment on the code and things like that are really helpful. That save us time and make things more efficient. But all of it is within walled environments. All of it is very, very highly protected.
Yeah, we're in the same place. Our policy is very strict. We keep track of everything that's being generated. We also, and then any tool has to be approved, and even the content that's anything that might be created actually has to go through an approval process.
And there's some particular tools that yourselves or your staff are finding valuable you might recommend for people to look at?
DeepL for translation, it's good. Use the paid version. And like I said, use it for consulting a specific phrase, a paragraph, a quick marketing description. I don't think it's at the level where you can do long-form translation, but it can definitely help.
We're playing around with some AI tools for marketing purposes, doing things like making additional image content for books. One of the hardest things publishers deal with is what besides the cover image do I put out there, so we can auto-generate those images for publishers. There's a lot of other things we do again on the coding side that we're working through. Personally, I do training, and I have a database that's a demo database, and I didn't want to use copyrighted material for it, so we came up with a list of 400 fake books. And so we used AI to help us generate a lot of the fake metadata for these fake books and the cover images. So there's a lot of things you can do to when you're playing around with it.
And for us on the marketing side, there's Jasper. We have a walled garden, and that's one that has been We're just starting out using it, but it's done a good job so far. But again, it's content. Anybody that's using it is using it to generate ideas, not to actually write the copy.
Same, that's probably what we use the most.
Tell us a little bit about Jasper for those who may not be familiar. How would you describe it in 2 sentences?
I would say it's a tool that's for marketing, writing good marketing copy. It can do some generation of images, something that we don't do with it. We require that any images are actually done by our graphic artists, so we don't use it for those purposes. So that's what I say. It is just really takes and we actually limit the amount of content that you can actually upload even in our walled garden. So we do not load full manuscripts even in our walled garden. So we want to make sure that we have real strict controls on it. But that's what I would call it. It's pretty much a marketing tool. It writes really decent marketing copy. But again, it's only as good as what you put into it, like any tool. If you don't get the right prompts, you will get garbage in, garbage out. So that's why we require an approval process, even after something is generated, and that a human being has to actually tweak it.
At our last global conference for Harper, we actually had a global conference, pretty much anybody that's an executive in any division is there, right? And we did this exercise where we had a walled off OpenAI platform that we could use, and basically we were given a manuscript, go create a marketing description, a cover, a suggested title, and we were all divided into groups of 5, I think, and we all then analyzed the results, right? And obviously the people who were already marketing experts were getting good marketing descriptions, and those of us who didn't know marketing were getting crap, because garbage in, garbage out, right? Those who were creative directing covers were getting good covers from it. Others, not so much, right? So yeah, it's a tool, and you have to be a master of your craft in order to use it well.
So on this idea of illustration, we mentioned a few tools. There's also things like DALL-E that are out there. We've touched on using it for maybe some marketing images. Can you see a world where AI illustrations are being used for front covers or for the internal pictures in children's books, for example?
Not anytime soon in our world.
Yeah, I would say the same. I can't imagine. It's like, as soon as you say it, then it happens, right? But I can't imagine. I think the beauty that's created from artists, I just don't, it's like I know that AI can do some pretty amazing things, but there's just something in the beauty of what a person can create and the vision and the emotion that comes through in those things. And I just don't think that, at least right now, a machine can't do it.
I think there's another side of this too, that DALL-E and these other image generation programs, all of them have been trained on copyrighted material. And there's no way around that. You can't upload your own art unless you have a ton of it, which publishers won't. I mean, you'll have some, but not enough to really train an AI. I think we're in that. We have to get to that inflection point where there's how do you have non-copyrighted or that's hard to do with images, unlike with text. So how do we do that? I don't think from a practical perspective, publishing will get to a point where we can legitimately use those tools. But for prototyping, for coming up with ideas, that kind of thing, if an author says, hey, I feel like this is what my cover should look like, sure, why not? Give an AI-generated example of what you think, and the publisher will say no. But rightfully so. But I think overall, we have to be careful about the copyright implications on that, even more so than text. I do have a friend who is, I told him I was going to say this at the conference actually. I do have a friend who's prototyping a board game. And I'm huge into board gaming, and I love board games, and he's prototyping a board game, and he's using AI, DALL-E or actually he's using whichever the other one is, to prototype the images that go on all of the pieces of his board game. And it's working really well, and he's able to take the same board game mechanics and turn it into, here's a sci-fi version, here's a cowboy version, and it's the same game, right? So it's interesting, it's fun for prototyping things out, it's good for testing things, but it's not going to be, I don't think, for production anytime soon.
If we're being completely honest, there's the politics of it all, right? One, the platform's not there. Two, it's going to give you someone else's recycled work, and there's a possibility that that person can identify that this is mine and I'm going to sue you, right? And then there's the politics of it all, that the moment you say you're going to do this, every graphic designer out there hates you and doesn't want to work with you. So no, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Can I go into the really interesting part of this though? Because Adobe Photoshop has had for a long time actually now AI tools for expanding on images that are already there. So you take a photograph of a beach, oh, I want to get rid of that person in the background. You can just wipe them out. That's using AI. I want to expand make this a landscape photo instead of a portrait photo. It'll interpolate for you and build out. So that's AI. So we're using these tools, and I can guarantee you that book designers are using those tools now on cover images. But within the context, again, Adobe has a very, all of their content has been very specifically chosen as freely available, non-copyrighted content. So you can do it legitimately. But it's different than actually saying, I'm just going to generate an image, right? There's a very different kind of situation.
Before we take some questions from the audience, has anyone on the panel got anything else they'd particularly like to emphasise or encourage the audience to think about?
Don't be afraid. I think that's the worst thing about AI. Arthur C. Clarke said that I'm going to get the quote wrong, any substantially beneficial or substantially good technology is going to seem like magic, right? It's not magic. It's just another technology thing. It's something else that you can play with, you can get into and figure out. How many of you have never done anything with AI? Okay, those few of you in the room who have never done anything, go log in to ChatGPT and play with it. Take 20 minutes and just play with it. Ask it.
It's going to blow your mind.
It's going to blow your mind. And ask it to generate an image for you. Ask it to tell you, answer a question. There's some really interesting things you can do. Don't be afraid. Be knowledgeable. Be informed.
I would ditto that. Just get in there and experiment, play around, and ask questions. That's actually how I started. As the conversation started happening, I was like, well, I want to check this out and see what this is all about. And again, you can get garbage in, garbage out, but it is an interesting way in which to play around, get information that you might be looking for. And then I always say, verify. It's like get the information and verify. Check and recheck.
That's where it's going. It's all going there. Right? Like that's happening. So don't fight it. Figure out a way to use it and use it correctly and use it to the best of its ability.
Thank you guys. I've learned a huge amount from that. I hope others have done as well. I'm sure there might be one or two questions from the audience. You may have to shout quite loudly. Yeah, Daniel?
So we recently published a book on Kindle, KDP, and they ask you, is any of this content AI generated? Yes or no?
Start again.
So Kindle Direct Publishing will ask you, when you're loading the book, is any of this content AI generated? I've never even used AI, except maybe I have because I went in 1976 from a manual typewriter to an IBM Selectric. And that felt like, and whenever you do, so my definition of AI is basically anything that's automatic. And I wrote every word of my book, but when I did the research, I did some searches online, but like for example, right now, if you Google anything, now it pops up AI-generated stuff, and I automatically, intentionally skip that in order to get to a source. So that's my question, so I answered, not only do I say no on the web, but on the first page of my book it says, no AI-generated content in this publication. And I recommend that I want to ask whether that's the right way forward for self-publishing, and any thoughts you have on that, thanks.
Any thoughts from the panel?
Yes, I do believe that's the right way to go about it. If you're not generating content with AI, if you're doing research, that's one thing. That's completely different. But if you're not generating the actual content, then it's not an AI-generated work. So I would say that's perfectly acceptable to do it the way you did it.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's like if you're using AI for transcription, for example, it's still what you've said. It's just the AI has helped it to get into the system. I don't think that's been AI generated. Any other questions from the audience? Or observations?
I talk loud, just one brief note. Those of us who went to high school in the 60s heard the same argument with the use of a calculator. The calculator was going to make people lazy, blah, 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 blah. So it's the same.
I agree. And it's also, I mean, think of Napster. Everyone who was in the music industry wanted to figure out how to keep this from happening. Well, that wasn't going to stop happening. Apple figured out how to monetize it, right? And that's true for every industry and everything we do. Technology is going to come up, and someone's going to use it the wrong way, and then someone's going to figure out how do we put this within guidelines and figure out a way to use it to make money.
Yeah, but I would also add to that, if you ignore it, you're just getting further and further behind, but you're getting further and further behind more quickly, right? It's not that, the calculators, they've been around for a long time. You could pick one up today and use it pretty easily. 10 years from now, if you have done nothing with AI, you have no concept of what AI is, you're not engaged with it in some way, you're going to be further behind than someone who has been working with it this entire time. We're getting to the point as well where different types of generative AI, different types of AI systems and large learning models are getting so good, we can potentially have robots. I'm going to put a prediction out there. All the robots that you see being built right now by Toyota, by Tesla, by all of the companies that are doing this robotic work, they're using AI to help that robot do what it does in the physical world. We're going to see more of that. And we're eventually you're going to have a robot in your home that helps you with the housework, and it's going to be using AI. And there's not, if we're all Luddites, if we're not engaged with it, then we're not going to be able to make sure that we're making the right decisions with it in the future as well.
I remember the first time I put something into Google Translate, I wrote, "May God bless you," and it translated as, "The God of May blesses you." That's how bad it was when it started, right? In AI, in generative AI, when you ask about something that no one's asked about before, the response is going to be pretty terrible. The more people in that industry, in that topic, use it, work with it, train the bot, for good or bad, the more helpful it's going to be in that industry, right? So if you are in a unique part of the world, area of publishing, area of anything, use it and get others to use it. And the more that you all do, the better it will be for you and for others who want to do what you do.
Great, I think that's a great note to finish on. So please can you give our panelists a round of applause.